Hydromancy is a method of divination by means of water. Prophecies were derived by observing the coloration of water, as well as the ripples that occurred after a disturbance had been made into a calm pool. During the days of Renaissance magic, hydromancy was classified as one of the 7 forbidden arts. One method of hydromancy is to take 3 pebbles and throw them into standing water. Observations are then made from the ripples that are created. In yet another method, you take a drop of oil and sprinkle it into a vessel of water. This made a mirror through which wondrous things became visible. Silver tears are formless creatures of mimicry. At their core is a larval tear, a tear within a tear. The larval tear closely resembles an amniotic sac, also called a bag of waters, a sac in which an embryo and later a fetus develops inside of the human body. Silver tears are reborn again and again into imitation, and are seen by some as a mockery of life. A variation of the silver tear is known as the mimic tear, which was used in an attempt to forge a lord. They initially appear as a standard silver tear, but they have the ability to mirror other forms, with the exception of the original summoner's will. Mimic and silver tears originated from the Eternal Cities. These cities are also home to both the Numen and the Nox, aka Nightfolk. The Numen are said to have come from outside of the Lands Between, from a place only known as the Lands of the Numen. Their race possesses a unique long lifespan, but are rarely born. In the Japanese version, Numen are given a title from ancient Japan, referring to a supernatural being who comes from afar, bringing gifts of wisdom, spiritual knowledge, and happiness. Outside of Dialos, direct ties to Numen heritage connects mainly with female characters, such as Queen Marika or the Black Knife Assassins, scions of the Eternal City. Some have theorized that the Numen race is made up entirely of women, but we know that they have descendants, so how did they procreate? Nightfolk are another race for the Eternal Cities. They are said to bleed silver and have silverish skin. Silver tears have the possibility of transforming into Nightfolk when turned hostile. The Nox are a religious sect found within the Eternal Cities that are composed of Nightfolk or descendants of them. Both the Nightfolk and the Nox were once cold-blooded, and both utilize flowing weapons. It is possible that the material that they use to forge these weapons is the same material that makes up the silver tear. Interestingly, the Nox are labeled Marika of lineage in the game's files. The Nox being descendants of the Nightfolk and being labeled as Marika's lineage may point to an ancient melding of the Numens and their creations. Numen's knowledge of mimicry is displayed with Marika's mischief. Could the Numen have created the Nightfolk through the science of the silver tear? Silver tears acted as the pebble, the first ripple being the creation of the Nox, which mimic the Numen, the second ripple being the creation of the Carians, which mimic the Nox. The Nox predate the Carians, but share many similarities. The Nox mirror helm design is mimicked through Iji's mirror helm. Speaking of mirrors, the Carian sigil is the mirrored version of the Nox's sigil. The inverted statue is the mirrored form of the original statue, and the black moon is merely a reflection of the dark moon. Items associated with the Carians have many visual references to silver tears as well, including the Carian filigreed crest and Carian shield. Plus, the sexton in the debate hall has the shape of a tear. The Carian royal family was established by Queen Renala of the Full Moon, and were served by preceptors. The preceptors wear masks that have a closed mouthpiece, which mirrors how the Nox monks' mouths are also blocked with silk. The Nox caste system is matriarchal, which may be why the monks, or male Nox, wear cloth over their mouths as a symbol to show their lower status. The Carian caste system seems to mirror the Nox, as they are led by a queen, and they place a high importance on their princesses. The matriarchal hierarchy can be seen throughout the Numen, Nox, Carian, and Albinauric cultures. The Carians reflect their creators, the Nox, as Carians mirror Nox sorceries, cultural practices, and beliefs. The Carians then take the knowledge of mimicry that has been passed down to produce their own artificial creations, the Albinaurics. Evidence to support the idea that the Albinaurics are creations of the Carians include Renala's knowledge, the fact that the Albinaurics village is located just underneath the Moonlight Altar, a place sacred to the Carians, and that Loretta serves the Carians, as well as being an Albinauric herself. Also, the second-gen Albinaurics wield wooden clubs shaped like the crescent moon, which relates them both to the Carians as well as the Nox. Albinaurics are said to have been created from a primordial drop of dew. They wield weaponry modeled after the ripples that are said to be the origin of their species. Their blood clots are similar consistency to the silver tears. The ripple blades they use is the key to understanding everything. The weapon can be bought off of Pydia in the Carian Manor, as Pydia is an Albinauric, which is why he has such a deeply vested interest in the Eternal Cities. Pydia even has puppets of the Night Maidens. Apparently, in Data Mine dialogue, Thop says, "Beware the Albinaurics, accursed souls born of a forbidden rite of the Eternal City." The Ripple Blade symbolizes the origin of the Albinaurics, but on a grander scale, the Albinaurics are only the newest ripple in the Silver Pool. The first drop being the Numen, or their knowledge. From them spawned the Nox, which over time led to the Carians, and finally, the artificial birth of the Albinaurics. Albinaurics share the same mobility issues seen from the Silver Tears and theorized Carians as well. The female archers compensate for this disability by riding wolfback, an idea that was given to them by the Carian royals, who also use this strategy to solve their mobility issues, which is why direwolves are found within the Carian Manor. Meanwhile, below, the Nox ride on the giant ants found underneath the lands between. These mobility issues are also in effect for the Dragonkin soldiers, yet another creation of the Eternal City. Although, the second generation Albinaurics seem to break this genetic setback. Second generation Albinaurics resemble frogs, almost as if they were designed to mirror a creature with abnormally strong legs. Hecate is an Egyptian goddess of fertility, represented in the form of a frog. To the Egyptians, the frog was an ancient symbol of fertility, related to the annual flooding of the Nile. It was Hecate who breathed life into the new body of Horus at birth. As the birth of Horus became more associated with the resurrection of Osiris, Hecate's role became more closely associated with resurrection. Water is often related to renewal and rebirth, representing the cleansing and rejuvenation of the soul. Side note, as mentioned earlier, I believe that the Black Moon is merely a reflection of the Dark Moon. If you examine the moon of Noxtella, there are two twin birds located at the top. Or is it a reflection of just one bird? These birds may symbolize Ronnie and Melina, a pair that have mirrored facial appearances with a claw mark found on their eye. These claw marks may be related to the Death Bird. The Death Bird drops a blue feathered branch sword, which mentions using one's death as a worthy offering. Melina's goal of reaching the Forge of the Giants is a journey of self-sacrifice to allow the lands between another chance at returning to balance. Ronnie also uses her death as a sacrifice for the Knight of the Black Knives. Twin maiden husks can be seen as a representation of Melina and Ronnie. The term twin comes up multiple times. Eternal twin cities, or the Nox Maiden's twin crown. Is Nokron a reflection of Noxtella, or vice versa? Cultures that are created by mirroring the original. Mirrors have been a part of human culture for thousands of years, with their cultural significance and symbolism evolving over time, from their role in religious rituals to their association with superstitions and beliefs. Mirrors have played a significant role in shaping the way different cultures see themselves and the world around them. Ancient civilizations such as the Egyptians and Greeks believed that mirrors had the power to reflect the divine. In ancient mythology, for example, the god Thoth was believed to have used a mirror to create the universe. There is even a theory that the Tarnished could be a form of Mimic Tear, as they are able to transform themselves by using the Clouded Mirror stand to mimic past races. The term Tarnished could mean to become less valuable, or could be pertaining to a metal that has lost its luster. The Tarnished also has the ability to use the Furled Fingers Trick Mirror, which is one of the ritual implements created by the Tarnished to deceive invaders. Both items used to transform are clouded mirrors. The clouded mirror within the Round Table hold is found in the same room as Fia, who is wearing a black veil covering her face, similar how the Nox cover their faces. What a strange coincidence that the clouded mirror, an item made of silver, that is used to transform you, is found in the same room as a woman wearing a veil over her eyes. A veil is an article of clothing or hanging cloth that is intended to cover some part of the head or face. Elite women in ancient Mesopotamia and the Persian Empire wore the veil as a sign of respectability and high status. Assyria had explicit laws detailing which women must veil and which women must not, depending upon the woman's rank and occupation within their society. The practice of veiling is especially associated with women and sacred objects. Veils remained a part of Western mourning dress customs into the early 20th century. The tradition of a widow's veiling has roots in the attire of the Christian nun, which symbolized modesty, and the mourning veil became a way to demonstrate sincerity. The mourning veil was commonly seen as a means of shielding the mourner and hiding her grief. In closing, What if the Numen created the Larval Tear to increase their population to remedy the fact that they are seldomly born? The Larval Tear became the Silver Tear, which acted as the first drop that generated a ripple throughout the lands between, spawning new cultures and races that continue to persevere. When you drop any new idea into the pond of the world, you get a ripple effect. You have to be aware that you will be creating a cascade of change. Thank you so much for your time today, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful week.